At number one, you can't look any further than right here in Athens, Georgia, Elijah Griffin. Elijah Griffin at defensive tackle is bound for a breakout season. I think Elijah Griffin is going to be one of the best defensive linemen in all of college football, bar none, the SEC. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hammy Show, presented by First American Bank and Trust. We are here on a Wednesday at Willie B's. It's Willie B's Wednesday. We're talking college football. We are just around the corner from the college football season, kicking off Week 0, happening August 29th and Week 1, September 5th, that Saturday. But we've got a jam-packed show for you tonight. We're talking about the villains of college football, the breakout stars of college football, and then a little stadium ranking, not just college football stadiums, but all stadiums that I have been to and seen with my own two eyes. But like I said, we're here at Willie B's on a Wednesday. It is the best fried chicken in the game. You know that feeling when you're craving real crispy, golden, tendered fried chicken? Well, come to Willie B's because it's not just good, it is fantastic. I'm talking about can't stop thinking about it good. Willie B's is your party headquarters, perfect for family meals, boxed lunches, and event catering, offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. From small office lunches to a full-service food truck, Willie B's has you covered. Keep us in mind for game day. I'm telling you, Willie B's, if it's under your tailgate tent, you'll be the best food stop on campus. 2 locations in Athens and 1 in LaGrange. Stop in to taste the difference. Download the app for a free Coupe Witch on your first ever order from Willie B's. You can see it right here. We've got the chicken, we've got the fries, we've got the toast, and we've got, of course, an ice-cold Powerade. Oh, you can't beat it. Let's get a little bite of this chicken. Oh, it's unreal. Unreal, ladies and gentlemen. This chicken is unbelievable. But let's jump into it. We've got a jam-packed show. As I said, we are kicking it off. Let me swallow this chicken. Talking about the 5 villains in college football. These are not only the players, but the teams, the coaches. These are the people and the teams that will be the most hated among the college football landscape in 2026. And I don't think you can start anywhere else but in Baton Rouge with Lane Kiffin. He, of course, is villain number 1, most wanted on probably every college football fan's list, especially the SEC and even more so Ole Miss's list. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We get to see that game with our own 2 eyes on September 19th in Oxford, Mississippi for Lane Kiffin's return to his former school. I'm not just saying that this is probably the craziest saga of college football, fandom, coaching carousel, anything you can imagine. It's all wrapped up into the Lane Kiffin story. His departure from Oxford, Mississippi, and the head coach at the Ole Miss for the Ole Miss Rebels, to being the head coach for LSU. Not only is it an in-conference transition from one school to another, it is a rivalry that is dating back almost a full century, even more than a full century, I do believe. The Magnolia Bowl. He went from the Magnolia State in Mississippi to the other side of the Magnolia Bowl. That is what Lane Kiffin did. This was already a heated rivalry. And what he has done to Ole Miss is not only put them, I guess you could say, behind the 8 ball, although I think they really have a talented team and a talented coach in Pete Golding, but you could say that he put them behind the 8 ball in this whole Lane Kiffin saga of him leaving. Ladies and gentlemen, that game on September 19th will be absolute cinema. You can book it right here. You've heard it all off season. That game, my friends, will be unfreaking believable, and I cannot wait. But like I said, we all know the story of Lane Kiffin. I don't need to tell you what happened on the tarmac, what happened when he got to Baton Rouge, what has happened since he's been in Baton Rouge, and what happened prior to all of this and his success in Oxford, Mississippi. We all know it. But what if he's actually good? I think this is the first question we have to ask ourselves when talking about this Lane Kiffin transition from Ole Miss to LSU. What if it works immediately? What if there's no growing pains in year 1? What if he just gets straight to the college football playoff, putting LSU back in that conversation for the first time since 2019 when they won it all with head coach Ed Orgeron? My friends, this is where it could get real dicey for Lane Kiffin and the LSU Tigers. Obviously, if they're good, it's not necessarily dicey. But this is when the hate could really start pouring in. And that hate, it has to rattle an 18 to 22-year-old. It has to somewhat affect their psyche when they're walking into a stadium, whether it's Tiger Stadium at Death Valley or it's an opposing stadium like Vaught Hemingway Stadium in Oxford, Mississippi. That hate might rattle those 18 to 22-year-olds. But does he become more hated as he has more success, or does he divert that kind of hateful attention to just being a really good football coach? Because what we see in college football is people come into their new jobs in year one, and they might have a little bit of success, but for the most part, it's a step back. Curt Cignetti has completely flipped the script on this conversation, but what we've seen is a new head coach comes in, and maybe they were a 10-2 team, but they're looking to get to that next level, and they go 7-5 in the first year. Now, by year 3, that new head coach has got to have things figured out, because college football fans, we don't really wait on a 3-year, more than 3 years for us to get into that playoff conversation. Take Georgia, for example. Mark Richt, longtime head coach at the University of Georgia, legend, one of the great men in all of college football. He comes to Georgia, takes us to a couple SEC championships in 2002 and 2005, never really gets back to winning the SEC, has a couple of SEC championship appearances in 11 and 12, but the Georgia fans were not satisfied. So they got rid of him in 2016, asked him to leave. Kirby Smart steps in. They went 10-2 that year, and Kirby Smart comes in, and guess what Georgia does? They go 7-5. People are calling for Greg McGarity's neck. But then in year 2, Kirby Smart takes the Georgia Bulldogs to an SEC championship title, a Rose Bowl title, and a national championship appearance, falling just short to the Alabama Crimson Tide and Nick Saban. If Lane Kiffin steps in after an abysmal year last year under Brian Kelly in year 1 and just shows that this team, this program has potential underneath him, well, my friends, the hate could get even greater. But if he maybe not regresses, but stays the same as Brian Kelly, then that hate turns into a different story. It turns into not only he shouldn't have left Ole Miss and the rest of the college football world is hating on him. No, he has hate coming from his own corner. The LSU Tigers begin to hate him because they paid him all of these bukus of money, and they paid him to get this roster from the transfer portal. This is a $40 million roster, my friends. And so this LSU fan base is pouring in all of this money, and he's not taking that next step forward. Then that hate starts coming from those Tiger fans, from those Cajuns, and my friends, it could be downhill for Mr. Lane Kiffin. So I think there's a lot of hateful corners of the world that is digressing on Lane Kiffin and the LSU Tigers, but I think it turns it up a notch if he starts losing and he doesn't live up to the hype and he doesn't win football games for this LSU team. So I think Lane Kiffin has to be villain number 1. He's at the top of our most wanted list in college football entering the 2026 season. Let's take another bite of this chicken. Willie Bees, my friends. Unbelievable stuff. Villain number 2. Got to wash her down. But villain number 2 is none other than Notre Dame. Notre Dame is probably, outside of Notre Dame fans, the most hated program in college football. But then again, you turn that on the flip, it's a double-edged sword. They also have probably the largest fan base because any Catholic is a Notre Dame fan. However, with Notre Dame, what they did last year at the end of the season, they go 10-2. They get left out of the playoff conversation. They get put in a bowl game, which has lost its luster in the recent years of college football. But when you lose its luster, it doesn't mean you don't play the game, and that's exactly what Notre Dame did. They decided to not even play in a bowl game. The college football world threw every ounce of hate they had at Notre Dame in that situation, because how could you not? This is preaching to the young generation, preaching to college kids that are hopefully going to take the next step forward and continue their football career. But if not, they're going into the business world to make a living for themselves. This is preaching to them to hang it up and quit when things don't go your way. So the college football world, really anybody in the entire United States of America that has some inkling of interest in college football, hated on Notre Dame. And I think that hate has carried over into 2026. But to take it up a notch, it's not just that narrative of skipping out on your bowl game. No, Notre Dame has the easiest schedule in maybe college football this year, and they're getting all of this preseason hype. So the non-Notre Dame fans are like, oh, well, this team is just overrated. They've got a weak schedule. I personally believe Notre Dame is one of the most talented rosters in all of college football, having almost 0 to no holes on that roster, whether it's the O-line, the D-line, defensive backs, linebackers, wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks, running backs. They've got it all. But the general college football public is hating on Notre Dame for having this easy schedule. I don't necessarily think it's their fault, but they avoid USC and playing in that rivalry game. The hardest game on their schedule is Miami, and if they drop that, this is where the hate ramps up another notch. Notre Dame made a deal with the playoff committee that if they win 11 games in a regular season, then they're automatically in the college football playoff. So Notre Dame can lose that game to Miami and still have the safety net of, oh yes, we're guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff. You see, my friends, I'm ramping up this hate for every single bullet point I have on Notre Dame. But the deal they made with the committee not only extended that hate, it turned it into back into the narrative, I guess, of what last year was of, oh, Notre Dame didn't get the thing they wanted. And so not only did they hang it up and quit, they made a deal with the devil, the committee, to automatically put them in. This hate is unprecedented in college football for one single program. Let's ramp it up another notch. Let's say they go 10-2. Let's say they're on the fringe, the playoff bubble of getting into the conversation. Then that hate really takes another stand because they don't meet their 11-win requirement. But at 10-2, their most likely losses are probably to Miami, probably to BYU, maybe to Navy. If they get 3, they're completely out of the conversation. But I think with 2 losses, you have to leave Notre Dame out because they have 0 strength of schedule outside of that. It's the exact same narrative as it was last year. The 2 important games, the 2 biggest games they played against Miami and Texas A&M, they lost. One being at Miami and one being at home. They were 10-2. They missed the playoff, despite being in the rankings heading into the final week of the rankings reveal. So if they go 10-2, I just do not foresee Notre Dame being able to get into the playoff, but that hate hounds down on them because Notre Dame is going to plead their case. Marcus Freeman is going to say, well, we're 10-2, we're Notre Dame, and we should be in the playoff. You want to make some money? You want our TV rights deals? Then let us in the playoff. I'm just saying, the Notre Dame hate has reached an all-time new level, and don't even get me started on it. I strongly dislike this Notre Dame team and this Notre Dame program as we stand right now. But do I think they're good? Of course I do. They're a really good ball club. Head coach Marcus Freeman, C.J. Carr is a Heisman front-runner in the preseason odds markets. I just think this hate for Notre Dame, their weak schedule, what happened at the end of last season, and the potential of going 10-2 and still arguing your case for the college football playoff, my friends, that hate would ramp up to another freaking level. What's up, everybody? I wanted to remind you to hit that subscribe button. It's what keeps the lights on here at the Ham Cave, and we want to help you so you help us. If you hit that subscribe button, you can stay up to date on all of the Hammy Show content we put out here on YouTube. It's the best content in all of sports, my friends, and if you hit that subscribe button, we can keep doing this for you. So, hit that little tiny subscribe button. It doesn't sign you up for anything. It just keeps you up to date. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the show. So the third villain of college football entering the 2026 season is one that's kind of an eternal villain as we stand in the recent decade of college football, and that is the playoff committee. The playoff committee is a group of 13, I believe, people that decide the fate of the universe in the college football world. They always get something wrong. They can't ever get everything right. They can't please every fan base. They can't please every program. The College Football Playoff Committee is one of those villains that will forever be as long as it is a thing. So, they can never be right. The Notre Dame thing that we just talked about happened where they guaranteed Notre Dame an 11-win season gets them into the college football playoff. And then they're going to have to leave somebody out, and someone is going to be pissed off. Someone's not going to be happy. How can the committee do something to get on the good side? I think that's the main question you have to look at when you look at this villain arc of the playoff committee. I don't think they can do one single thing to get on the good side of the general college football public. Every single year they're going to leave somebody out, like I said. Every single year they're going to have to put Notre Dame in if they win 11 games. And every single year they're going to put the wrong team in, whether that's the group of 5 team that has no business of being in the college football playoff, whether that's a team like Miami last year who went 10-2, didn't even play in the ACC championship, in one of the conference's worst seasons to date when at 7-5 Duke won it. They didn't want Miami in. Miami made it to the national championship game, and it kind of proved the committee's points that they were well-deserving. I, my friends, just don't think the committee can do one single thing to get on the good side of the college football fan bases around the country. For that, they have to be on the villain list. The College Football Playoff Committee not only has these narratives deriving from the Notre Dame saga and putting the group of 5 teams in and just everything around that, but they also are a conglomerate of people that sometimes don't have anything to do with college football. And I think that is a major chink in the committee's armor that a lot of people pick apart is y'all don't even have anything to do with college football. Now, there are past coaches, current ADs, et cetera, on the committee. But then there's like a Condoleezza Rice, and I love Condoleezza Rice. I'm not saying anything bad against her, but what has she done for college football? What has she done in the college football world to warrant her being on that committee? I know that was many years ago, but there's obviously people on this committee that don't have things to do with college football. And for that reason, I think the hate ramps up to an even greater level. So yes, the committee, one of the great villains in college football that will for sure be pissing off college football fan bases around the United States of America this year. It's going to be awesome. You got to have somebody that the college football world universally hates. I think it's good for the sport. Obviously, the committee has a lot of things to figure out in the coming years of whether or not the 12-team format is the best way to find your national champion, etc. But I just think having somebody universally to hate, to collectively hate, is good. It kind of like unifies the college football fan base. So maybe that's a good thing that they're on this villain list. All right, number 4 villain. This one's a weird one because it seems like a program that is of recent relevancy, but before that, it just didn't really feel like they did much. But because of their recent relevance, it has put them on this list, and that is Texas Tech. The Red Raiders had the world of oil in the state of Texas just all come down to Lubbock and say, here's my money, take it and go build a roster. They did it last year. They took that team to the college football playoff. They get boat raced by Oregon in their first game, the quarterfinal. From then, they continued to get all of this money from these big-time oil families in the state of Texas and went out and attacked the transfer portal yet again. They have Joey McGuire, who I think is an awesome head coach and a very likable dude, but he's just at the forefront. He's the face. He's the poster child of what a lot of old-timers and college football purists hate about the sport right now. And he is the poster child of that, and that is called NIL, name, image, and likeness. He is the one that is buying these rosters and trying to make them college football playoff teams. So, is that the best thing in the world? I don't know. I mean, I'm for players getting paid. I don't necessarily believe in just paying for a roster, hoping it comes together, and making the playoffs, winning a national championship because of that. But let's ramp this up a notch like we have on the past three villains. The Brendan Sorsby saga. So they go out to Cincinnati, and they get Brendan Sorsby in the transfer portal, one of the top quarterback commits in this transfer portal cycle. They get him to come to town. He plays in the spring game, and some news breaks. I don't know if you live under a rock, but Brendan Sorsby has been betting on sporting events. Some were games he was playing in at Indiana, the destination he was at before his Cincinnati stop. He was betting on Indiana games. Pause for dramatic effect. I think it needs to resonate with all of us. Not only did that happen, but Texas Tech pleaded their case that he was still eligible to play. It happened a few years back, and just because he gambled doesn't mean that ruins his eligibility in college football. Well, the college football world let the Texas Tech staff, athletic administration know that that's a big no-no. And they said, okay, well, he's going to play. And then the hate kept pouring on. And then they were like, okay, shoot, maybe this is a little too much. Brendan, you're going to have to walk, and you can't play at Texas Tech. Right decision, in my opinion. I don't believe Brendan Sorsby, who had bet on college football games that he was playing in, should be allowed to play college football. But then schools like Georgia came out. Josh Brooks, athletic director here in Athens, said, we refuse to play against Texas Tech in any form or fashion in any sport across our, I think we have 17 varsity sports. We refuse to play Texas Tech because if they're going to allow a cheater to step on the field, then we don't want to be on the same field with them. Texas Tech took it to heart. They said, Brendan Sorsby, you're appealed. It's not going to go through. You really got to go. They kicked him out of the door. He tries to enter the NFL supplemental draft. They don't allow him to do that. The world has crashed down on Brendan Sorsby. So, not only are they building rosters from NIL money, they went and got a transfer guy, paid him a lot of money, and he was blowing former money on college gambling. College sports gambling. That hate is a different level. So what if they run the table in the Big 12? What if they get back to the Big 12 championship? What if they win the Big 12 championship? What if they get back to the college football playoff and they're still the best team coming out of that conference? Does the hate ramp up, or does it divert its attention to, oh, Texas Tech is just a really good football program? I think it ramps it up because you have to go back to the roster argument of they built this team by paying for it with oil money. I don't necessarily know if the media would say that, but the college football fan bases around the country would feel that. This is not right. They're building their money, or they're building their rosters from a pile of money from oil. I think that hate ramps up. What if they win a playoff game? What if they get into the playoff, take a step forward from where they were last year? What if Will Hammond at quarterback, the guy who is going to fill in for Brendan Sorsby, who filled in for Baron Morton last year, what if he's actually good? What if he's a guy that has stuck with Texas Tech and stayed with their system, and they didn't really need Brendan Sorsby? Well, I think the Texas Tech fans would be happy, but the general college football public would be like, you were really going to put your neck on the line for Brendan Sorsby when you had a playoff winning quarterback in your locker room, in your building, who played for you, has been in your system? I think that ramps up the hate even more. So I'm just saying, this Texas Tech team, they've got to be on our villain list. They've got to be on our most hated team list. I just think Texas Tech has a lot of outside noise crashing down on them between the Brendan Sorsby, the money, the oil money, all of that conglomerating on Lubbock, Texas. Joey McGuire, you've got your hands full. You better get things straight. You better win a playoff game, because if not, the world is coming down on you. So that was like the last point, is like, what if they don't get to the playoff? What if they don't win the Big 12 championship or even get to the championship game? What happens then? I don't know what the hate is. I think it's more of like a point and laugh in their face that you might have needed Brendan Sorsby, but you can't go get a cheater. You paid for this big-time roster, but you still can't win. So I think it's more of a pointing finger type of situation than a hate situation. But our final, fifth villain, and this one is up for debate, because I don't necessarily know if the general college football public hates him yet, but I think the hate is coming. I think he becomes the villain this year, and that's Curt Cignetti. Cignetti, what he's done at Indiana has, for a large part in the athletic administrations around the country, ruined the plan of action when you hire a new coach. Curt Cignetti goes to Indiana, the worst statistical college football Power 4 program in history. Yes, they are the worst program to ever play the sport of college football in their entire history of the program. But he gets there in year one, takes them to the college football playoff. In year two, wins the national championship, has the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. He then goes on to be the number one overall pick in the NFL draft. It's insane. It is insane what Curt Cignetti has done. For the athletic administrations around the country, they're like, You just made our fans think that this is actually feasible, that you can take over the worst program of all time and have them be national champions in 2 years of being there. So athletic administrations and athletic administrators around the world or around the country are pissed off because now they've got fans lined up outside their office with pitchforks and torches ready to fire their head coach after 2 years because he hasn't gotten them to the playoff yet. Curt Cignetti, the standard, it will never be matched. He's one of the best head coaches in all of college football right now. But I think we can take this to another level. Curt Cignetti says what he wants at the podium. You go back and watch his Big Ten Media Day press conferences, not only from this year entering the 2026 season, but entering 2025 and 2024 when he was a first-year head coach, hadn't even coached a game. He says what he wants. And a lot of people have found it funny. And they found it amusing, entertaining. They found it to be kind of part of his persona, part of his, I guess, scheme that he's really trying to push with the Hoosier football. But when does that get old? Because we've seen in the past, like Saban used to be, he would say whatever he wanted at the podium, and then he would go off on Maria Taylor that one time, or he would go off on a player and everybody would be like, dude, what are you doing? You are an idiot. Like all this stuff. They weren't saying you're an idiot because he's the greatest college football coach of all time. But they were just like, you're embarrassing yourself. You're making yourself look like a fool even though you're not a fool. Like, what is going on? Curt Cignetti has said those types of things, and the college football public is still very much on board with him. So I just think it's going to get old. I think he's going to get into a post-game press conference after a tight win or a close loss, and he's going to say and speak his mind. And the college football public's going to be like, dude, what in the hell are you saying? I don't know. Like, I just feel like that's coming for Curt Cignetti. Not only that, but if he keeps winning, you become a villain. Look at Ryan Day in Ohio State. He's become a villain when Ohio State has won national championships and Big Ten championships and all of these things. He's become hated among the general college football public. Kirby Smart has become hated among the general college football public outside of the city of Athens. When you're good, the hate comes, but it means you're doing something right. So I just think the hate around the college football world is coming for Curt Cignetti. You got to look at the questions, though. I think it's going to happen, but what if they get bounced early from the playoff? What if they don't make the playoff? What if they don't make the Big Ten championship? Does the hate ramp up? Does it subside? Does he never become the villain that I'm expecting him to be? Or is it a point and laugh in his face because he's kind of got the Texas Tech mantra going where he's just paying for rosters and hitting the transfer portal hard and all that stuff with Mark Cuban's money? I don't know. But I feel like the villain arc is coming because I think Indiana is going to stay near the top of the college football landscape as one of the better teams in the country. So there's your 5 villains. We've got Lane Kiffin at number 1. Bar none, the best villain, the greatest villain, or the worst villain, depending on how you look at it in college football. Number 2, Notre Dame. The hoopla that happened at the end of last year with how they handled their playoff snub and foregoing their appearance in a bowl game. Now this year they've got the easiest schedule. The Notre Dame hate is at an all-time high. Number 3, the committee. The committee can never do anything right. They can never get anything right to get on the good side of college football fans. The committee will always be a villain in college football for as long as they live. Next, at number 4, Texas Tech. They pay for their rosters with oil money, and then they went and got a transfer who was a cheater, who was gambling on college football games while he was playing in them. You got to hate him. They're a villain. And number 5 is Curt Cignetti. This is a prediction-based villain, but I think if he keeps winning, if Indiana stays dominant, then Curt Cignetti, my friends, becomes one of the biggest villains in all of college football. You want behind-the-scenes coverage? You want anything you can imagine on social media? Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at @_Hammy Show. It is the best social media account in all of sports, I can promise you that. From skits to documentaries, we've got it all here on Instagram and TikTok with The Hammy Show. Hit that follow button and you can stay up to date on anything and everything we post to social media. Now, let's get back to the show. Before we get into our 10 breakout players for college football's 2026 season, I want to talk about our friends at First American Bank and Trust. First American is the presenting sponsor of the Hammy Show. They are with us and have been with us since day one, and we could not appreciate them more. When it comes to your money, you want a bank you can actually trust. That's why First American Bank and Trust has been serving this Athens community and communities around the greater Athens area with a personal touch you just won't find in the big banks. Whether you're opening your first account, growing your business, or planning for the future, their team is there to help every step of the way with real people, real relationships, and real solutions. So, First American, my friends, not only the presenting sponsor, but the bank that I use for both personal and business reasons. They have been with me, like I said, since day one. You walk in and it's a smile and a wave. The people are what make the difference. They are not only the best bank in the world, in my opinion. They, my friends, have a smile on their face every single time you walk in their building. And it's like walking into your house. I just love First American, and we could not appreciate them more for being the presenting sponsor of the Hammy Show. If you're ready for better banking, check out First American. First American Bank and Trust, where your future comes first. This year, we're going to be hitting the road around the college football world all season long. Every single weekend, we've got a destination planned, whether that's right here in Athens, whether that's in Tuscaloosa or Oxford, Mississippi. It might even be Atlanta, Georgia for a little Georgia Tech game, Clemson, South Carolina. We've got it all covered here on the Hammy Show. But the Hammy Show on the road would not be possible without Hughes Subaru powering our ventures. Our friends at Hughes Subaru have been the greatest car dealership in Athens, Georgia, and really in the entire United States of America for quite some time. And I'm not kidding. Let's pause, talk about them, and then we'll get back to our 10 breakout stars. If you're looking for a car that can handle your everyday life and your weekend adventures like my 2019 Subaru Outback will be doing this college football season, that's where Hughes Subaru comes in. At Hughes Subaru, you're getting more than just a vehicle. You're getting reliability, safety, and performance you can count on. Whether it's the versatile Outback or the sporty Crosstrek, Subaru is built to take you wherever you want to go. And at Hughes Subaru, the experience is just as high quality as the lineup. Friendly service, a team that actually listens, and a commitment to helping you find the perfect fit. Whether you're upgrading your ride or buying your first car, stop by Hughes Subaru today and see the difference for yourself. We appreciate Hughes Subaru for powering the Hammy Show on the road. Like I said, we will be hitting college football campuses around the country this entire college football season. It would not be possible without them and my 2019 Subaru Outback from Hughes Subaru. So, let's get into these 10 breakout players. This is going to be a fun one because these are the guys that, yeah, you've probably heard their name. They've probably done something important, but I really think they're going to take that next step forward and be one of the catalysts for their teams, be one of the workhorses for their teams, be one of those people that their name will be mentioned in April come draft time in the NFL. At number one, you can't look any further than right here in Athens, Georgia, Elijah Griffin. Elijah Griffin at defensive tackle is bound for a breakout season. I think Elijah Griffin is going to be one of the best defensive linemen in all of college football, bar none the SEC. I really think Elijah Griffin is ready to take that next step forward. Story time real quick. Last year, Elijah Griffin's a freshman. He comes into fall camp, tracks down Nate Frazier at a practice. At that practice, they had the little catapult vests on. They clock him for what his speed was. He was running at 20 miles per hour. Nate Frazier was running at 19 miles per hour. He's a starting running back in the SEC at that point, a second-year starter. Elijah Griffin had not played a snap in SEC football. This kid is a Jordan Davis, a Jalen Carter-esque player. The difference that Elijah Griffin can make on this Georgia team is a national championship, an SEC championship, or not. That's how good Elijah Griffin is. That's how much of a catalyst he can be for this Georgia football team. I think the difference you look at between the 21 and 22 teams that Georgia won national championships with to the now 24, 25, and hopefully not 2026. Hopefully we get to the national championship game again. But I feel like the big difference was lack of defensive line dominance. On those two national championships teams with Jordan Davis, with Jalen Carter, you had dudes that were first-round, top 10 draft picks that could fly across the field, that could get their defense set, that could wreak havoc in the backfield, not only clogging up the run, but sack the quarterback. Georgia dominated on the defensive front in those national title years. Georgia's got to get back to that, and I think it starts with big Elijah Griffin right up the middle. I think he's bound for a breakout year. Keep an eye on Elijah Griffin all season long here in Athens, sporting the red and black. Number 2 is Mark Fletcher. We all saw Mark Fletcher. We saw his dominant run style in the college football playoff last year, not only against Indiana in the national championship game, but Ole Miss in the semifinal, Ohio State in the quarterfinal, and Texas A&M in the first round. I think Mark Fletcher is an underrated back because you've got a very sick, nasty group of backs in college football this year. Whether it's Ahmad Hardy out of Missouri, who got shot this offseason but is looking to be fully recovered and have a big-time year for the Missouri Tigers. Then you got Kawan Lacey in Oxford, Mississippi. You've got Hollywood Smothers and Malik Brown as a tandem in Texas. You've got Nate Frazier and Chauncey Bowens as a two-headed monster here in Athens. But Mark Fletcher is one of those workhorse guys. He reminds me of Jeremiah Love, which is crazy to say that we're already comparing him to a player that's fresh out of college and hasn't even played a regular season NFL snap. But, that's the style of running he shows when he's on the gridiron every single weekend. I think Mark Fletcher is bound to have a breakout year. When you think about Miami, you're thinking about Darian Mensah, the Duke transfer who comes in to take over the quarterback job, and he's going to be, a Heisman contender. You think about Malachi Toney, one of the most electrifying players in all of college football at wide receiver. What you don't really hear us talking about is Mark Fletcher. But Mark Fletcher was a huge piece to Miami's success last season and in their playoff run. I think Mark Fletcher is bound to have a 1,000-yard season. I think he's bound to have a pile of carries. I think he's bound to have a pile of touchdowns. I'm going 20-plus. I think Mark Fletcher, not invited to the Heisman ceremony, but I think his play at the running back position on a team like Miami that is competing for a playoff spot, competing for an ACC championship and national championship, Mark Fletcher is going to be the catalyst of that, one of the catalysts of that offense. And when you've got a guy like Darian Mensah who not only can find the wide receiver targets downfield, but can make things happen with his legs, you have a second option, and I think the better first option at running back in Mark Fletcher. When you play Miami's offense, you're going to have to respect the run, respect the pass, respect Mensah's legs, respect Malachi Toney on the jet sweep, screen pass, and downfield. There's so many options on this Miami offense, but I think every single game it will start with Mark Fletcher. If Mark Fletcher goes, then the Miami offense goes. If they establish a run game, which they will with Mark Fletcher based on my prediction, then Miami's offense will go. So I think you got to look at Mark Fletcher as one of the breakout players of this year. I know he's a name that we've heard before, we've seen on the big stage, but I just think he's bound to take that next step forward and be a catalyst for this Hurricanes offense. At number 3, it's Nick Marsh. The transfer from Michigan State goes to Indiana. I think his story is awesome. Michigan State played Indiana last year, and Michigan State found a streaking Nick Marsh down the sideline for a 65, 70-yard touchdown. It was a big-time touchdown, a big-time play that Indiana defense didn't really give up. The cameras pan to Curt Cignetti, and you see his face, and he goes, It's kind of like that meme or gif that we send about Kirby Smart when he's watching Justin Fields play in high school. He's got popcorn. Justin Fields does something insane on the field, and he puts a bite of popcorn and turns around wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, holy cow, that kid's insane. That's what Curt Cignetti did when he watched Nick Marsh just piece up his Indiana defense. That was a historically great defense in college football ranks. So Curt Cignetti says, on the sidelines in that moment, I think I want that guy to play for me one day. So he goes out into the transfer portal and gets Nick Marsh. You've got a lot of movement on this Indiana roster. A lot of guys went to the NFL. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza, Elijah Surratt at the wide receiver position. And you've got Charlie Becker coming back. I think Charlie Becker's going to be an all-Big Ten receiver, first-teamer. I think he is potentially going to be an All-American. He's a stud, and he just comes up in the clutch. But for this Indiana team, you've got to have that wide receiver 2 option. You've got to have, whether it's a 50-50 ball guy, whether it's your slot guy, whether it's a screen pass guy, whether it's a guy that comes over the middle and can just create yards after the catch. I think that's what Nick Marsh can be. He can be all of those things. And I think that's what Curt Cignetti realized in this transfer portal cycle is he's got to have one. Look no further than the dude that pieced up my defense last year. So I think Nick Marsh is going to be a major target for Josh Hoover in this Indiana offense, and I think he's going to take a massive step forward. He was already very talented at Michigan State, but surrounding him with a high-quality roster like Indiana has is going to elevate his game, make him look better. And like I said, you've got a guy like Charlie Becker. They're going to be double-teaming him in defensive backfields, leaving Nick Marsh open to create some havoc on the offensive side of the ball for this Indiana team. So I'll keep an eye out on Nick Marsh for the Hoosiers this year. I think he's going to be a very, very fun watch. At number 4, I'm going with Tre'Dez Green. Tre'Dez Green, 6'7", 235 pounds. I think he earned preseason first-team All-SEC tight end. This kid is one of the most freakishly framed tight end prospects we've seen. He's got that Kyle Pitts build. He's going to be a big-time 50-50 red zone ball target for Sam Leavitt in this LSU offense. I really like Tre'Dez Green. I think he's going to be a Sunday guy. I think he's going to be a first-round guy. I think he's really going to separate himself among the tight ends in college football this year as one of the better ones we've seen. Tre'Dez Green, my friends, is a huge target, and Sam Leavitt would love to have that as a consistent option, not only in the red zone, but like on the 50-50 balls, back shoulder balls down the sideline. I think Tre'Dez Green is going to make a massive, massive impact. Best thing I saw today, presented by Backer. Backer is the best thing you will see every single day, whether it's the dry one, the cool one, or the warm one. They've got 3 jackets, all logo branded. It will be the best thing you see today and the best thing you put on. But the best thing I saw today in college football was coming from Rookie Watch on X.com, the Everything app. Trending. Tre'Dez Green is one of the freakiest tight end prospects of all time. One NFL scout reportedly believes Green shares similar traits to Kyle Pitts. Just said that. The Falcons tight end. Green currently measures in at a breathtaking 6'7" and 237 pounds. The Tigers could potentially have the tight end 1 of the 2027 NFL draft on their hands. Tre'Dez Green is that type of dude. He is the best tight end in the country, or he is due to be that. I think Tre'Dez Green is going to be one of the best things we'll see every single Saturday because of his dominance on the football field, and it's going to create a name for himself. We've heard a little bit about him. A lot of these SEC media guys that were at SEC Media Days heard a lot about him, enough to make him the first-team All-SEC tight end. But I think the rest of the college football world is going to hear this name and be like, oh, yeah, that's Tre'Dez Green. That's LSU's tight end. It's going to become a household name. I'm pumped for this dude. I think he's going to be a super, super entertaining watch. This film that I'm going to put out on the social media with this clip, it's unreal. It is freaking unreal what he's doing. His catch radius is unparalleled. It's almost impossible to guard. So the best thing I saw today, like I said, is presented by Backer. Like I said, it is the best thing you will see every single day if you have yourself a Backer jacket, whether it's the dry one, the cool one, or the warm one. If you throw in the bucket hat that they make too, waterproof I might add, you can't have it much better than that. Backer is the best brand for the outdoorsman of a college football fan, whether it's toughing out the heat in Athens when the summer months are still lingering around and the summer heat is camped out over the Classic City, or it's bundling up for that late Thanksgiving Day game on Thanksgiving game in rivalry week. They've got every single jacket for every single element of the weather. Whatever Mother Nature throws at you, Backer has your back. Logo branded gear in 3 separate jackets. Like I said, the cool one has a cooling technology that keeps you breathing amidst the summer heat. The warm one is the thickest and only jacket you'll need once the leaves fall and the temperatures drop, and you've got to stand in a stadium for 3 hours to watch your favorite college football team play. And the dry one, well, the name speaks for itself. The durable rain jacket keeps you dry when the heaviest of rain falls at tailgate in the stadium. Whatever you need, they've got you covered at Backer, because Backer has your back. So let's get into these 5 through 10 rankings of breakout players. I think at number 5, you got to talk about Aeneas Williams, the running back from Notre Dame. Everybody's talking about that running back will be the biggest hole on this Notre Dame team because you lose guys like Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, both first-round running backs to the NFL draft in 2026. Well, guess what? Aeneas Williams steps in Anais Williams steps in at Notre Dame, and I don't think the Notre Dame step back is going to be that far. I do think there will be a little bit of a step back because having 2 first-round backs in your backfield, it's unheard of. That's like a Nick Chubb and Sony Michel type of tandem, type of running back duo. Anais Williams is the next guy up at Notre Dame. C.J. Carr is going to be unbelievable, both a passer and with his legs. But if you add a talented running back like Anais Williams is as a third threat in their offensive scheme, Anais Williams is bound for a breakout year. Playing that Notre Dame offense, it's going to be like playing that Miami offense. That game, by the way, it's going to be, just 2 brands colliding with 2 talented rosters. It's going to be so fun. Sorry for that little tangent, but Anais Williams, when you play this Notre Dame offense, you're not going to know what to cover, whether it's the run game, whether it's the pass game, whether it's C.J. Carr's legs. Anais Williams, like Mark Fletcher, when he goes, the Notre Dame offense will go. I think Notre Dame will rely heavily on that run game, and when they start having success for the rush game, then they can open up in the pass game, and this offense will be clicking, firing on all cylinders. So I'm looking forward to Anais Williams as one of those breakout players in 2026. At number 6, we're going Terrell Anderson, the wide receiver at USC. This is one of those guys that you probably haven't heard of. Formerly an NC State guy, transferred to USC this offseason. At NC State last year, he had 629 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think it was on 39 catches. So he's a big-time player that has been, I guess, held back by the Wolfpack at NC State. I really think Terrell Anderson is bound to take that jump forward and be wide receiver 1 for USC. Jaden Mayava is one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten, one of the better quarterbacks in the entire country. He had Mekhi Lemon last year, who was the Biletnikoff winner, a first-round draft pick. That kid's a freak. He loses him to the NFL draft, of course. Well, Jaden Mayava needs a new wide receiver 1, and look no further than Terrell frickin' Anderson. I think this kid is going to have a massive year. In that Lincoln Riley offense that is so just air raid heavy, you've got to have that wide receiver 1 that is just a massive threat down the field, and I think, like I said, you don't have to look further than Terrell Anderson. Like I said, 629 yards and 5 touchdowns at NC State. Not the most impressive numbers, but a huge transfer portal target among the college football world. USC lands him. And with Jaden Mayava throwing him the ball, I think he's bound to burst onto the scene, if you will, in 2026. At number 7, I'm going with Chaz Coleman. Another name that Big Ten fans have probably heard, but a lot of SEC fans down here in the South have probably not heard. Defensive end at Tennessee, comes from Penn State following Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles, national champion defensive coordinator for Ohio State in 2024, gets hired away by James Franklin for $3.1 million to Penn State last year. At Penn State, we know what happened. The wheels fell off and they crumbled right before our eyes. Jim Knowles, after a tumultuous year, he was off the Penn State staff. In the coaching transition, Matt Campbell brought a ton of his Iowa State staff. Jim Knowles is looking for a job. He didn't have to look any further than Knoxville, Tennessee. Josh Heupel, my friends, is one of the great offensive minds as a head coach in all of college football. But his defense has always been that chink in the Tennessee Volunteers' armor. The chink in the armor in 2022, the defense. The chink in the armor in 2024 when they went to the playoff, the defense. Ohio State put like 48 on them in the first round of the college football playoff in Columbus. Defense is a massive, massive target of attention for Josh Heupel. So he goes and gets a national championship level defensive coordinator in Jim Knowles, who was just happened to be looking for the job market, or was open on the job market. Well, he brought a bunch of Penn State guys with him in the transfer portal, including Chaz Coleman, defensive end from Penn State. Now at Tennessee, this kid is a freak of nature. He's got the twitch off of the edge. He's got the ability to get to the quarterback, and he's got the ability to shut down the run. He's one of those defensive ends that's kind of like a Nolan Smith, can drop back into coverage. Maybe a Jalen Walker, who was more of a linebacker but played on that edge rusher position a good bit. Chaz Coleman is kind of that dude for Tennessee. I think he's going to be a big-time player for this Volunteers defense, and a defense that has to take a step forward if Tennessee wants to be competitive in the Southeastern Conference. So keep an eye out on Chaz Coleman, the number 7 breakout player on this list. At number 8, we're going Earl Little Jr. Now, we've all heard of the name Earl Little. Earl Little Sr., though. Earl Little Sr. is an awesome NFL player, and now his son is a defensive back for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He's formerly at Alabama in 23 and 24, and then FSU in 25, and now he is at Ohio State. A heck of a trajectory, career path, if you will, along the some powerhouses and big-name brands in college football. But this kid is a freak, and he's going to be awesome. Ohio State loses a guy like Caleb Downs at safety that was a generational talent, another Alabama transfer. But he is going to step into that role of being just the high IQ guy on Ohio State's defense that can get everyone set, can drop back into coverage, can come down and sack the quarterback on a safety or DB blitz. Like, he's going to be a freak of nature. I'm pumped for Earl Little. Like I said, we've obviously seen what his dad did in the pros for many, many years. Earl Little is bound to be playing on Sundays. I think he's bound for a breakout year with the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think he's going to be a very fun watch on this talented Ohio State defense. At number 9, I think most of the college football world has probably heard this name by now because of his draft prospect. Like, he is one of those big-time names in the quarterback market, and that's Drew Mestemaker. He's not playing on the biggest and brightest of stages with Oklahoma State, but he comes from North Texas, follows Eric Morris, the former head coach there, who went to Oklahoma State in this coaching carousel. Kind of the Curt Cignetti script when Curt Cignetti left James Madison for Indiana, just brought all of these smaller school guys to this Power 4 program and really coached them up to be a obviously powerhouse college football team, and that was the key that won them a national championship for the Hoosiers. That's what Eric Morris is doing at Oklahoma State. He's bringing a ton of these North Texas guys, including his quarterback Drew Mestemaker, to the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and I think Stillwater is happy to have him. I think Oklahoma State is one of the sleeper picks in the Big 12 to be pushing for a Big 12 championship appearance, and it all starts at quarterback with Drew Mestemaker. He was the nation's leader in passing yards last year. He was up there, I think, top 5 in QBR. I think he was top 5. He was top 5 in almost every major important throwing statistic that we measure a quarterback upon. Drew Mestemaker is bound for a breakout year. He's not bound by the North Texas small school kind of stigma surrounding them. He's at a Power 4 program now, and I think he's got a chance to be very competitive in the Big 12. I think he's a first-team Big 12 quarterback. I really am pumped about Drew Mestemaker at Oklahoma State in Stillwater, Oklahoma. He's going to be a very, very intriguing player to keep your eye on, and he's going to be a player that goes in the first round of the NFL draft. That's what all the big boards are saying. He's a first-round guy. He's maybe a top 10 guy. He's got all the fundamentals, all the intangibles, can throw it a mile, and he can make things happen with his legs. He's going to be really, really freaking fun in Stillwater. And at number 10, I'm going with Trey White, the defensive end at Texas Tech. Formerly at San Diego State, he comes to Texas Tech, another one of those guys that they just built around in the transfer portal, a big-time get from a smaller school. He fills in the role for a guy like David Bailey, who's a first-round talent out of Texas Tech last year. Texas Tech's defense last year was generationally good in terms of Texas Tech football. They were dominant. That's what got them to the college football playoff. Yes, they lost to Oregon in their first game in the college football playoff, lost it 22-0. But holding that Dante Moore-led Oregon Ducks defense or offense to just 22 points, I found it to be pretty impressive. Texas Tech has got to get back to it. They lost Jacob Rodriguez. They lost David Bailey. They lost these two big-time leaders on the defensive side of the ball, and I think Trey White is bound to take over that sort of leadership role on the defensive side of things for the Red Raiders. At defensive end, he's got the twitch. Off of the edge, he can get to the quarterback, but I think his most talented aspect is his ability to stop the run. For these edge rushers and defensive ends, you really focus on their ability to get to the quarterback. But I think his ceiling off of the edge is mighty impressive. I think he racked up 18 sacks in 2 years at San Diego State, which is mighty impressive numbers. He had 31 tackles, though, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for a defensive guy, for a defensive end, coming around on that edge and just sealing it off, eliminating that option or that side of the field, that's your biggest job in most of the run-play defensive plays, packages, schemes, whatever you want to call it. Trey White can do that for this Texas Tech defense. I think if Texas Tech is able to shut down the run against a team like BYU, who has a elite running back staff and an elite quarterback with his legs, or a team like Oklahoma State in the Big 12 that's going to have some take a step forward in their run game. I think Trey White's going to be a big-time, important key factor for this Texas Tech defense and their success. So pumped to see Trey White on the defensive side of things for this Texas Tech Red Raiders defense. I want to talk about our friends at Legacy Structures. If you've been thinking about an upgrade for your recreational space, a dugout, pavilion, blacktops, pickleball courts, you name it, they can do it. Based in the Southeast, they specialize in building high-quality, fully custom structures designed to fit your lifestyle. No cookie-cutter builds, just pure craftsmanship, durability, and your vision brought to life. From the start to finish, they handle it all. So if you're going and you're ready to build something special, something recreational that lasts, check out Legacy Structures today, because what's your legacy with them? It'll be fantastic, my friends. I love Legacy Structures. They are bringing you our live stream every Tuesday and Thursday and helping us with our documentaries throughout the college football season. So huge shout out to Legacy Structures. Then let's pause for a quick chat about our friends with the Vinyl Frontier. The Vinyl Frontier is the best record store in all of America. We love the Vinyl Frontier. It's all about the experience. Located on the town square in Carrollton, Georgia, the Vinyl Frontier is one of those hidden gems in a small town, Georgia town. The city of dreams, Carrollton, my friends. That town square is a cute little spot. If you're driving down I-20, hop off on that Carrollton exit, and you, my friends, can grab a bite to eat at the Corner Cafe. Walk on over to the Vinyl Frontier. It's the best spot on the town square. Talk to Quiggs behind the counter. He knows everything you want to know about music. He can find you the vinyl that you are looking for, whether it's Taylor Swift today or Randy Travis way back when, whether it's Eminem a few years back or it's Biggie Smalls in the 90s. Like, they have everything. I promise you, it's awesome. I love the Vinyl Frontier. They are tuning up the Hammy Show. Like I said, it's all about the experience, but if you can't get to Carrollton, Georgia, then visit thevinylfrontier.com. and you will find any record in the entire universe delivered straight to your doorstep. Thank you to the Vinyl Frontier, who is one of our best and brightest sponsorships. We love the Vinyl Frontier. Quick pause in the show to remind you to get your very own Hammy Show merch. It's the best merch in the entire game, and I can promise you that. You will not be disappointed, because for just $26, my friends, you can have this t-shirt. And I'll even throw in one of these little koozies for you. But my friends, all you have to do is DM me on Instagram or TikTok at @the_Hammy Show and secure your very own Hammy Show t-shirt. We appreciate you. Now, let's get back to the video. All right, let's get ready to close this thing out. We've been doing it all summer long. Stadium rankings. These are stadiums that I have been to. So it's not just stadiums all time. Stadiums in college football. No, this is every stadium that I've been to ranked from worst to first. So we're going to give you 14 through 17, counting down from 17 today. Like I said, these are stadiums I've been to, so don't hate if your stadium's not on here. I might not have been to it. But Hughes Subaru is taking us across the country to countless college football stadiums all across the Southeast and really the entire United States of America for college football games. We are pumped to go to these stadiums, and it would not be possible without Hughes Subaru powering the Hammy Show on the road. But these are stadiums that I've been to thanks to Hughes Subaru. I think the first one, or number 17, we've got to go with Yankee Stadium. Now, I've got a grading process that I'm going through, and it's history, aesthetic, and fan experience. History being championships you've won. It's championships you've won, what's happened in that stadium outside of just your sport. Yankee Stadium obviously has some of the best history. The Yankees do as a whole, the program, the franchise. The new Yankee Stadium does not. They haven't seen a World Series title in this new Yankee Stadium. So, this new Yankee Stadium, for a history score, I'm giving it an 87, a B+, because it's still the Yankees. They've still got the pennants flying. They've still got 27 World Series titles. But that's the program. That's not this stadium. So I can't give them what their history should be, because their history should be 100. It's one of the greatest franchises in all of sports. That's what the Yankees are. But this stadium hasn't seen that prominence and dominance over the Major League Baseball. So history, 87 at New Yankee Stadium. Aesthetic, it's an 84. They tried to keep the past, like the old Yankee Stadium, they kept the picket fences, obviously, and they tried to keep the big-time major look of it, but they just made it more modern, and it didn't really sit right with me based on what old Yankee Stadium was. Like, I never went to old Yankee Stadium, so I can't say, like, I've seen it for myself, but old Yankee Stadium was filled with so much history, and it looked so good because it was so old. Like, just because you build this massively new modern stadium that's like this beautiful glass structure doesn't make it all cool. Like, I just think the oldness of some of these stadiums makes it even cooler, if that makes sense. So the aesthetic, I give it an 84. That's a B. It's just not the most impressive. What old Yankee Stadium was so much better, and I wanted them to encapsulate that better, make it look, not run down, but make it look old, and it just looks new, and that kind of sucks to me. But maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. Fan experience, 87, B+. The fan experience, I think the coolest part about Yankee Stadium is no matter where you sit, whether you're in the bleeds or right behind home plate, you're sitting around Yankees fans, like true Yankees fans. It's not just some tourist that's going to Yankee Stadium like I am when I go there. Like, I've sat next to the tourist in the nosebleeds because those are the cheaper seats, but like if you sit next to a season ticket holder or just a born and bred New Yorker, like, they are talking about baseball. It's a 2-2 count. They're discussing whether Garrett Cole's going to throw the splitter, the cutter, the curve, the fastball, whatever. Like, it's so exhilarating because they're so wrapped up into it. Like, I feel like when I go to some college football games, it's kind of social hour. Like, you go and sit in Sanford Stadium or you go and sit in Vaught Hemingway Stadium, and it just kind of turns into a party, and you're chatting with your friends, and, like, your attention is like 75% on the game, but the other 25% is on, like, when am I getting my next beer? So I think the coolest part about Yankee Stadium is you are engulfed in the fan experience of just being a baseball fan, of being wrapped up in America's pastime. So it's a very cool environment in that sense. The dock on these points for fan experience for Yankee Stadium is the subway ride to the Bronx. It sucks. It's terrible. It's long. Getting in the stadium, not fun either. So Yankee Stadium, that's where your dockage on these points comes from. But overall, Yankee Stadium, a great stadium, 258 overall score, an 86 average. I think that's a pretty decent stadium. One of the cooler baseball stadiums I've been to, but not as cool as this one, and that is the Texas Rangers Globe Life Field. This stadium is so freaking awesome. It's a dome, which I know that probably docks some points, but it's the first baseball stadium dome I've ever been into, and it kind of took me, like, way aback. Like, I was just shocked at how massive this structure is, like how tall it is. It's crazy. But where it's set up, like, it's right next to AT&T Stadium. It's right next to the Rangers' old field. Like, you're driving through the middle of nowhere in Texas, not really the middle of nowhere, but outside of Dallas. It's not in the city limits, obviously. And it's just flat, and then all of a sudden these massive structures come out of nowhere, and it's AT&T Stadium and it's Globe Life Field. And Globe Life Field, I haven't been to AT&T Stadium. That's on the bucket list, but Globe Life is unreal. I loved this stadium. History, it's an 84B. Not a whole lot of history there. Old Ranger Stadium had a lot more history. I don't think they've won a World Series in this new stadium just yet. Or no, yes, they did. It was constructed by the time they won in 22, I believe. Anyways, or 23, whenever they won the World Series a few years back. I think, so it's got one World Series. So, you get a little bit of a point juice for that. Aesthetic, like I said, I think it's awesome that it's in a dome, but I get why people don't think that's awesome. So I took off a little bit of points for the dome aspect, but I sat in an awesome seat. I sat way down low, and it just looks like this feat of engineering. It's really intriguing to look at. I think the aesthetic of Globe Life was very fun. So I gave it an 88, a B+. The dockage of points comes from it being a dome, because I know the baseball purists out there don't like baseball being played in a dome. Fan experience, I'm giving it an A, an A-. It's a 90. I sat in the coolest freaking seats. They were dugout club seats, so I know I'm biased. I haven't sat in the bleeds or even at a regular seat, down the third base line. I'm sitting right next to the visiting dugout. I watched the Braves play the Rangers. Obviously, being a Braves fan, we were on the Braves side. I talked to Drake Baldwin. I got an interview with him. Like, that juices my fan experience, so I know I could give it a 99. That's how much fun I had. They treated us so well. It was awesome. But the fan experience as a whole, it was easy to get into. It's very spacious once you do get in. It never gets congested. The lines are always short at the concessions. Fan experience at Globe Life Field is an A-. It's a 90. I freaking loved it. I docked points because I know I didn't experience the true side of it. I guess I got spoiled. So I did dock little points as the overall average fan would see Globe Life Field. So Globe Life Field coming in at 16 on my rankings, a 262, which is an 87.3 average. So a B-plus stadium. I think it's very well deserving. It's definitely one of the cooler stadiums I've been to. It cracks the top 20 for me. At number 15, these top 15, we're going to give you 14 and 15, and then we're cutting it, but we've got more stadiums coming your way. At number 15, I'm going with the Superdome. I think the history of this stadium is awesome. They've seen one Super Bowl, but they've hosted so many other sporting events, and I think that's where the juice in these points comes from. It is insane what they've hosted, from Final Fours, national championships in football, Super Bowls, anything and everything has been played in the Superdome because it's in New Orleans. New Orleans is an awesome town and an awesome city and an awesome vibe, and going to the Superdome is definitely a bucket list for all of you people that try and cross off as many stadiums as you can. The aesthetic, not my favorite aesthetic. I gave it an 85, which isn't terrible. From the outside, I think it looks cool. I think the shape of it is awesome. But once you're inside, I think the different colored seats look a little weird. And if you look up, all the tiles in the ceiling are coming down. I find it very weird and a little bit trashy almost. So I can't give the Superdome the highest aesthetic score. I think from the outside it looks great. The new renovations that they did to club levels, which I've never sat in, look amazing. I did some research on this. I looked up the YouTube drone videos and things like that. So those aesthetics I didn't get to experience. They looked very cool. As a whole, couldn't give it the highest aesthetic score, so I gave it an 85, a regular old flat B. Fan experience, I've had terrible experiences there. I am 0-3 when watching Georgia football play in playoff games or bowl games. I watched them play in 2018 against Texas, the 2019 Sugar Bowl, I should say. Lost to Texas. I watched them lose to Notre Dame, and I watched them lose to Ole Miss last year. So I haven't had the most joyous experience with the Superdome. But overall, easy stadium to get into. The little area right outside of it where people kind of tailgate, or at least we did, very cool. But I also experienced the stadium one time during a terrorist attack, so that was not a good fan experience in the slightest. Overall, that stadium is loud. It is awesome. It echoes the acoustics of it. Great stadium. So that boosts back up the fan experience score. I gave it an 84, which is a B. So overall score for the Superdome is 264, which is an 88 average. I think that's a pretty fair score for the Superdome. If you were rating cities to have sporting events in, I think New Orleans is close to the top, maybe number one. Las Vegas is up there. I guess you could throw in New York, but the stadium, like MetLife, sucks. So I don't know, but New Orleans is one of the great spots to have a sporting event at. Number 14, last one we're going to do today is Soldier Field. The history in this stadium is freaking awesome. It is obviously dedicated to the fallen veterans in our United States military. It is right in the heart of Chicago. I know they're trying to move it, but Soldier Field is unbelievable. It's owned by the city, which I think adds to its history. Hasn't seen that many championships, but it's hosted a Super Bowl. It's seen one Super Bowl, 85 Bears. So I gave it a 96. I just think the whole story around Soldier Field is unbelievable. One of the great stadiums constructed for the right purposes, if you will. Aesthetic, 85. Right kind of average, flat B score. It's not the prettiest stadium. It's right off the highway, kind of hard to get into. That more goes into the fan experience side of things. But the aesthetic, I think it's pretty cool once you get in, and I think the oldness of it is very cool, but it definitely needs to be redone. Don't make it modern. Like I said, keep the oldness, keep the history side of it visible. But Soldier Field, not the most aesthetically pleasing, but not terrible to look at either. So gave it an 85. And finally, fan experience. Gave it an 84. This was my major dockage in the point. points. When we went to this game, we went to the Bears-Falcons game in 2017, and we literally got in an Uber, and they just stopped on a bridge on the highway, and we had to walk along the bridge in the shoulder to get to the stadium. It was a very weird setup. Once you get to the gates, decently easy to get into. All of those old stadiums, not the best constructed when you're trying to walk in the concourses and get to concessions lines, so it was a little tough to maneuver yourself around. But once you're in your seats, it is awesome. It is a great fan experience. The Bears fans are super nice for the most part. I'm wearing Falcons gear going to a Bears game and did not get, the most hate, but you kind of want a little bit of hate. I got a little bit of stuff, but it was still an all-time atmosphere, an all-time game, and an all-time stadium. So Soldier Field, a 265 score, which is an 88.3 average. But that's your stadium rankings for the day. We're going to be going 13-1 over the course of the next few weeks as we count down to college football season. But my friends, this is Willie B's Wednesday. We are live here every single Wednesday of the college football season. Come see us. Come talk to us. We're happy to get a little fan interaction. And Willie B's, my friends, it's the best chicken in the game. It's your party headquarters, perfect for family meals, boxed lunches, and event catering. Offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week, from small office lunches to a full-service food truck. Willie B's has you covered, and you better keep them in mind for your game day because their tailgate packages are second to none. If you put Willie B's fried chicken under your tailgate tent, you'll be the best food stop on campus. 2 locations in Athens and 1 in LaGrange. The 2 in Athens right here on Lexington Road, where we will be every single Wednesday, and another on Jefferson Road. Stop in, taste the difference, my friends. This golden tender fried chicken is second to none, like I said. And one more little promo. Download the app, and you could get a free Coupe on your first ever order at Willie B's. So come check us out at Willie B's every single Wednesday. If you can't get here on a Wednesday, you can come 6 of the other days of the week and get some fried chicken. It's the best chicken in the game. But that does it for me here on this Wednesday show. I'm your host, Hammy Culpepper. This is the Hammy Show presented by First American Bank and Trust. We're at Willie B's Chicken Coop on Lexington Road, and we will see you next time. As always, my friends, ham it up.